butsu, namanda butsu. Goshō. Namo amida butsu. Namo amida butsu. Namo amida butsu. Namanda butsu, namanda butsu, namanda butsu, namanda butsu, namanda butsu, namanda butsu. Namanda butsu, namanda butsu, namanda butsu. Hello, and welcome to this special Sunday TSDBT YouTube service. This is the service for October 24th, 2021. Thank you for joining us. This is a dual special service, the Sochoki, the BCA Bishop's Memorial Service, and it also is the memorial service for Reverend Yoshitaka Tamai, the 50-year minister here at Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. We want to thank all BCA ministers, bishops, and especially Reverend Tamai for their service to the BCA, to Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple, and to help spread Jodo Shinshu Buddhism across the United States. Thank you all very much. Service order for today will be Sanbujo. You can find Sanbujo on page 35 in the Blue Denver Service Book. We'll then be chanting Sanbutsuge. You can find Sanbutsuge on page 53 in the Blue Denver Service Book. We're then going to be doing the Ryogemon in Japanese. You can find the Ryogemon in Japanese in the description below, and then the English translation of the Ryogemon, the Creed, and you'll find that on page 103 in the Blue Denver Service Book. We're then going to have a Dharma talk focusing both on Sochoki and on Reverend Tamai at the end of the service. If you don't have a copy of the Blue Denver Service Book, don't worry, because if you look in the description down below, you'll find a hyperlink to the Google Drive where you can download your own PDF copy of the Blue Denver Service Book. We want to thank you all once again for joining us here at the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. And remember, you're good just as you are. Sono Mama. Bejo mina nyorai nyorai yogen chose murin shōgaku daion koru jippo kaimon shōjin sanmai chie itoku muyo shusho keiyu jintai zennen shōbun hokai gujin jin no kugo gaitai mumyo yokunu seison yomu nin no shishi jintoku muyo kukun kodai chie jinmyo komyo iso shindo daisen ganga sabun saisho ho kado shoji mifuge dan fusei joi kainin shojin nyoze samai chie ijo gose tokubun fugyo shingan isai kuku isa dayan keshi umbun hyakusen nokuman 無用大小修行五者供養一切使徒処分不尿愚道検証不逆非尿五者処分世界不不影無種鮮度光明師匠変死小国尿税精進維持難量量が三分国土第一公衆奇妙道場超然国尿内安任務闘争がと愛民道南一切実法大小新年少女伊藤が国慶楽和の公文神妙税が新書本願の非力少々よ実法生存知恵無下上の子孫知が信用経路心死食読中学業精進忍辱不敬ナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナブがんにしくどく平等性際道本もないisshin zōgyō Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda 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 Butsu, Namanda. Please join me in goshō for a reading of the Ryogemon in Japanese, followed by the English translation known as the Creed in English. Goshō. Moromoro no zōgyō zasshu, jiriki no kokoro o furi suttee, isshin ni amida nyorai, warera ga kondo no ichidaiji no goshō, ontasuke sōrae to tanomi shite sōrō. Tanomu ichinen no toki, ōjō ichijo ontasuke jijo to zonji, kono ue no shōmyō wa goshō to zonji, yorokobi moshi sōrō. Kono onkotowari chomon moshi wake sōrō koto, gokai-san shonin goshūsei no goon, shidai sōjō no zenjishiki no asakara zaru gonkanke no goon to, arigataku zonji sōrō. Kono ue wa sarame okase raruru on okite, ichigo wo kagiri mamori mosu beku sōrō. The Creed. We rely upon Tathagata Amitabha with our whole heart for the enlightenment and the life to come, abstaining from all sundry practices and teachings, and giving up trust in our powerless selves. We believe that the assurance of our path of rebirth is His compassion that comes at the very moment we rely upon Him, and we call the name Namo Amida Butsu in happiness and with deepest gratitude. We also acknowledge the grateful benevolence of our founder and succeeding masters who have led us to believe in this profound teaching, and we do now endeavor to follow throughout our lives the way laid down for us. Goshō, please. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Hello and welcome for the Dharma talk for this Sunday service. This is actually a special service. We're going to be celebrating two special services at once. This is Socho-ki, or the Bishop's Memorial Service, in celebration for all the work that all the bishops who have passed before us have done to establish the BCA and allow this Jodo Shinshu teaching to flourish so much here in the United States, as well as a special TSDBT service, the Yoshitaka Tamai Memorial Service. So thank you very much for joining us here for this service. And first I want to talk a little bit about the Socho-ki. The bishops throughout the history of the BCA and the North American mission from the Honganji prior to the BCA have worked hard and tirelessly in order to allow Jodo Shinshu Buddhisms to be established and to be spread, and the Buddha Dharma to be heard here in North America and in the United States. And we just want to say thank you very much to those who have come before us, and be aware of the causes and conditions which allowed us to hear this beautiful teaching today. Namo Amida Butsu. And today is also a special day for the Tri-State Denver Buddhist temples, in that this is the day that we celebrate the years of service and the passing into the Pure Land of our longtime minister, Reverend Yoshitaka Tamai. Reverend Tamai first came here to the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple in June 1930, officially retired on Halloween Day in 1970, and passed into the Pure Land on September 25th, 1983. So he never stopped working here at TSDBT even after his official retirement, and had 53 years of service to Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. So we want to be deeply grateful of his service. And so if you look at the right-hand side over here, you can actually see a wonderful picture of Reverend Tamai. To give a little background on Reverend Tamai, he was born in 1900, October 10th, 1900, in Inmai-machi in Toyama Prefecture in Japan. He spent a lot of time at a Jodo Shinshu temple in Kagoshima and received his Tokudo ordination in 1920 at the age of 19, sponsored under Yusuji Temple in Kagoshima. He then went on to a career in publishing, graduating with both an undergraduate and a graduate degree, and decided in 1930 to come to the United States, where he first ended up in Seattle and then here in Denver, becoming the assistant minister here in Denver in June 24th, 1930, and the head minister in 1931 or 32. He received his Kyoshi teacher certification on Halloween Day, once again, a little bit of a theme, in 1931. We have to thank Reverend Tamai for all of his hard work that allowed Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple to be where and what it is today. So in that spirit, I'm going to be reading from Reverend Tamai's book, Ichinyo, ichinyo. And this is the English translation of this book. And in this book, Reverend Tamai had written 26 letters in something called the Nippon, Roki Nippon, I believe. And these were letters to people who had found themselves in the internment camps here in Colorado, in the concentration camps. And so Reverend Tamai wrote these letters as Buddhist lessons in order for them to not forget that they are always embraced by the vow of Amida Buddha. This is the final letter that he wrote, the 26th, called A Life Without Resentment. And I think it's particularly important today in this world, as it was when he wrote it in the 1940s. Letter 26, A Life Without Resentment. Peace is the basis of a society, and a society without peace is not really a society. We must always work towards peace and be careful to not bring about discord. If discord should arise, we should make every effort to resolve it as quickly as possible. Shedding blood is not corrected by shedding blood, and our hatred is not overcome by hatred. Only substituting love for anger does anger disappear. There is nothing more pathetic than living in a society without peace. Education, money, or ability will not help you at all in such a society. Just as we only appreciate health when we become ill, so is in this time of war that we keenly feel the sacredness of peace. Buddha Dharma is a teaching of peace. The teaching of peace is that the Buddha taught us is kindness towards all things. Long ago in India, there was a king named Chōsai. His kingdom was captured by a wicked king in the neighboring land. His name was Hondatsu. Chōsai was taken capture while hiding with his queen and son. Fortunately, his son, the young prince, was able to escape. The day to execute Chōsai came. The prince mixed in with the crowd that came to see the execution, seeking a way to save his father. Unfortunately, there was absolutely no chance for him to do so. All the prince could do was weep tears at the sight of his poor father. When Chōsai was placed on the platform to be executed, he saw his beloved son. He wanted to shout, "Oh, my son, I see that you're safe. How happy this makes me." But of course he could not do that, for then his son would also be captured by the evil king. So King Chōsai said, as if he said it to himself, "Do not hold resentment, and do not take revenge. The mind of hatred is subdued only by the mind of non-hatred." These words struck the young prince deeply. But the prince was still young, and as expected, he used all of his energies to try and recapture his father's kingdom. He found employment in the castle of his father's killer and was gradually able to gain the trust of those around Hondatsu, the evil king, until he finally had direct access to the king. One day, Hondatsu went hunting. The young prince decided that this was the chance he was waiting for. The prince maneuvered Hondatsu deep into the mountains, away from all of Hondatsu's followers. Hondatsu was tired from the hunt, and he lay down to rest, using the lap of the young prince as a pillow. "Now is my chance," the young prince rejoiced. He drew his sword and placed the tip at Hondatsu's throat. Just as he was about to plunge his sword into the evil king, the prince remembered his father's last words, and he could not move his arm. As the prince wavered in indecision, Hondatsu's body became drenched in cold sweat, and Hondatsu woke with a start. "What a frightening dream I had," Hondatsu said with excitement. "I dreamed that the son of Chōsai, whom I ordered executed, was about to cut off my head." When the prince heard this, he said, "Oh, hated Hondatsu, prepare yourself. I am the son of Chōsai, whom you executed so mercilessly. I'm finally about to take revenge that I have harbored for so long." The prince took up his sword again. As soon as he raised the sword, however, the prince threw it down. He knelt in front of Hondatsu. Hondatsu stood in surprise. He asked about Chōsai's last moments, and he was greatly moved by what he heard. Hondatsu realized how long he was to invade Chōsai's kingdom and ordered his death. The prince was also moved by Hondatsu's repentance. He begged forgiveness for even thinking of taking revenge. Both forgave each other. Hondatsu returned Choisai's land to the prince, and the peace reigned between the two countries from then on. I believe the way for us Buddhists is to treat others is clearly revealed by this story. Do you agree? Reverend Tamai, in this book, Ichino, wrote a lot about conflict, violence, and war. He grew up in a time that's often thought of as, or he grew old in a time post-war that's often thought of as a prosperity period for America. The period of time where America took its place as a world power. But Reverend Tamai writes in this book and in his personal memoirs that this is a time of strife and this is a time of conflict, that we point nuclear weapons at each other and that we are at the brink of destruction. And that only through mutual respect and love can we step back from that brink. The reason I chose this out of the 26 letters which Reverend Tamai wrote in the Rokibutsu, the Buddha in the Rocky Mountains, is because today in the world we are once again approaching a brink. We have conflict brewing and we have concern around us. And it is easy to think it is time for our country, it is time for our people, it is time for all of those things to raise up arms once again. It is time to show that we are the powerful people in the world. It is time to point the gun, point the sword, point the knife, and point the fist. It is time to take what is ours through power of force. It is time to show we are not people to be messed with. And this is not to, say that it is always good to be a limp noodle. However, maybe what Reverend Tamai was trying to tell us all these years later, as this was written, 80 years ago, almost 80 years ago, is it is much easier to not be struck by the sword when you are embracing your enemy. It is much easier to make that enemy your friend when you hold a hug. It is much easier to understand that that human being trembles in front of death just as much as anyone else. Thank you, Reverend Tamai. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And so it is easy for us to fight. Fighting is so easy. When I see something, I'm like, all right, I'm bigger and stronger than someone. So for me, when I read Reverend Tamai's words, I've heard Reverend Tamai was a very small man. I heard he was, yay tall to me. I'm 6'2". I'm 6'2". I never really walk into a whole lot of situations, me personally, where I'm like, this is probably pretty dangerous for me. I walk into most rooms and I am the biggest person there, and I know I'm probably the strongest woman in there. And I don't have that fear of conflict to the same extent of some people. But that makes violence easy. That makes conflict easy. What is hard and what is challenging and what is worthwhile is, instead of having conflicts and violence with other people, to show them love and compassion. And this is not the compassion of the Buddha. We are incapable of that. This is small c compassion, lowercase compassion, compassion that we are capable of. So we see those around us in pain and suffering. We see those around us who may wish us harm. And what can we do? We can say, how can I make your day better? How can I prevent further bloodshed? How can I prevent further despair? Because in the end, doesn't all violence come from a place of despair and sadness, of fear? And the one place you can ever go and never feel this fear is Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. In an interview in 1980, as Reverend Tamai was nearing the end of his life and Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple are celebrating 50 years of Reverend Tamai being here at the temple. They asked, what do you want to see going forward? What do you want to see the future of the temple? And Reverend Tamai replied, I want people to remember the temple is a place to feel the deep Shinjin faith. I want people to know that the temple and the teachings is a place to feel deep Shinjin, the entrusting heart. I want people to have the entrusting heart and the wonderfulness that that brings. This is not a manic thing, Shinjin. This is not a, look at how great I am, but rather it is the entrustment of looking in the mirror and seeing yourself as you are, and knowing that we all have greed, anger, and ignorance, and knowing that we are capable of both great kindness and great violence. So I want, and this is for me too, to personally take a look at my life around me and wonder, how am I causing others pain? How am I causing conflict? And what can I do to improve others' lives? And I know for me, and hopefully for you too, the best medicine is to say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, not expecting it to grant you anything special, but just to say, I know I'm embraced, and this ultimate compassion is always around me. I should share it with others. I should share the big C compassion of Amida Buddha through my small c compassion works. So I want to thank Reverend Tamai, who passed away when I was 6 months old. So someone I never could have met. But his teachings ring as true today to me, and hopefully to you, as they did in the time that he wrote them, in the time of my grandparents. So let's do what Reverend Tamai did. Let's help those around us. Let's dedicate ourselves to service when service is needed. And let's put our hands in goshō and be deeply, deeply appreciative of being embraced in the Nembutsu. Goshō. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Namanda.